Welcome back to Casual Bias Rugby. This is the official match preview for New Zealand taking on Australia in Dunedin. I'm not sure, is it for the WALLABIES Cup again? I think it's just a friendly, to be honest. I think the title was secured last weekend. Of course, New Zealand coming out resounding winners. But I mean, this is an interactive video, so please spam in the comments what you think about it, especially about the lineup, seeing that there's some interesting choices. We'll get into that. We'll get into some of the history. Of course, we talked about that last week, so I'll just fly through it this time, and then the lineups. And then, of course, as always, we'll be looking at the betting odds, seeing if we can make some money this weekend. Let's get into it. Starting off with the history, we'll be looking at the past 5 games. And I mean, the past 5 games, New Zealand, 57-22. In Auckland, Eden Park. New Zealand again, 38-21. New Zealand again, 39-37 in Melbourne. New Zealand again, 40-14 in Auckland. And then, of course, last week we had New Zealand versus Australia for the Bledisloe at Melbourne Cricket Ground. And I mean, 38-7. Obviously, I said in the post-match game, I don't think the score necessarily reflected the game, to be honest. I think, of course, New Zealand dominated the game and deserves to be resounding victors. But I mean, Australia had their moments. I think they in the first 20 and the second first 20 in the second half. Geez, I'm stuttering extremely at the moment. I think Australia played very well. And if it wasn't for the defensive effort from the All Blacks, they could have put a couple of points on the board. Easily, like pushing 20, 25 points on the board. Because there was a couple of times that Adi Savia, for example, or Shannon Frizzell won a turnover penalty on their own 5-meter line. I think it was just attack after attack after attack from the Wallabies last weekend. Just couldn't be clinical enough. Now, of course, New Zealand have rotated their team, so it's interesting to see if they can still get that turnover ball. Without any further ado, let's get into the lineups. We'll start off with New Zealand, the home team. And this is the people I want to see. Tamaiti Williams, starting in that one jersey with Samasoni Takiao and Nepu Lulala. So a full change in the front three. Very interested to see these guys. It's a young team. Samasoni Takiao, probably the best hooker for New Zealand. A lot of people would put him up there, one of the best in the world at the moment. And he does his job. He's very good. Tamaiti Williams, of course, made his debut against the Boks. Didn't start or didn't even feature in the game against the Wallabies last weekend. Gets his start in that number 1 jersey. And Nepu Lulala gets into that 3 jersey. We have got one change. And it's the veterans back together, Brodie Retallick, Sam Whitelock. I mean, there's nothing more really to say about these guys. They are absolutely brutal forces to be reckoned with. Sam Whitelock, with his return game in the Super Rugby Pacific, had an absolute beauty of a game. I was surprised that he wasn't chosen before to slide into that number 5 jersey. But I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Scott Barrett just proved his point to showcase why he's the number 1 lock in the world, currently on form. But I mean, it's not a bad team if you can just sub out Scott Barrett and slot in Sam Whitelock. Brodie Retallick, no need to say anything about him. Brilliant, one of the best in the world, one of the best to ever do it. Then, we got a debutant, Sami Penny-Finau. And I mean, I don't know anything about him. So we'll just skip right past that. Getting back to Sam Cane, returning from injury, also the captain. Dalton Papali'i did his job last weekend. Sam Cane, one of the best players for New Zealand in the Rugby Championship. Unfortunately got injured, but he's back. And I mean, this guy, he's proving a point in this Rugby Championship. Hopefully he can take this form into the World Cup. The guy's brilliant. Adi Savia, I'm not saying anything about him. Best player in the world. I don't even need to go on about it. Finley Christie gets his start. And this is the whole backline is almost switched around. And that's what I'm excited for, because there's a lot of players that want to prove their point. Because the All Blacks focused on playing their strong team almost every weekend. And now they've got the rotation. And I love it. Because Finley Christie deserves a start, deserves some game time. brilliant. Get him to start. Damian McKenzie gets back into that number 10 jersey. I would have loved to have seen him last weekend in that 23 jersey, coming on as a utility back, being able to slot in anywhere. But I mean, he had a brilliant game against Argentina in the first round of the Rugby Championship. Deserves his start again. Then we're going on to the centres, and it's two new centres as well. Anton Lennon-Brown, brilliant impact coming from the bench last weekend. I think it was dearly missed. One of the best centres at the moment. The guy's literally just a brute force. The guy's so good. Going on to that 13 jersey, Braden Enol gets a start. Don't know too much about him, to be honest. I'll just skip right past it. And then the 11 and 14, those are the two exciting ones for me. Got a debut in Sean Stevenson wearing the 14. The people have been screaming for him. I've a couple of times said, at least put him on the bench, give him some game time, give him a run out. And finally he's done it. He was an injury replacement and now he's starting a game in the Rugby World Cup warm-ups. Very excited for him to showcase what he's worth. And then in that 11 jersey, we got Lester Fainganuku. And this guy was absolutely insane when it came to that, to the Super Rugby. I mean, and to be honest, he can slot into that 13 jersey as well, and he's pretty dangerous there. And then 15, finally, Will Jordan goes into fullback. I want to know your opinions about that, because I think he's brilliant on the wing, and people have been calling for him to play 15 because they say that's his natural position. Of course, you know him better than me, so let me know what you think about it. I think he's a very, very inexperienced backline, but so much talent, so much flair. I think if you get that backline flying, that just causes havoc for any defense, loose play, whatever. There's a lot of shies in that backline. Let me just say it like that. Moving on to the subs, you got Dane Coles, Tuenga Vasi, Fletcher Newell. I don't know too much about him. You got Tupu Vai, Luke Jacobson, and then the experienced guys, Aaron Smith and Richie Mwanga. If you just need to tighten up the game, secure a victory or whatever. I don't think you care too much about winning or losing in this game, to be honest. I care about winning and losing because it's money that we're talking about. And then Dallas McLeod making his debut in that 23 jersey. I'll just skip right past him because I don't know anything about him as well. I don't even know who he plays for. Probably like the Hurricanes, to be honest. Very, very strong team. I like the mixture of experience and youngsters. You got the youngsters with Tamaiti Williams, Tokiao if you want to. And then just behind them, you've got the pure experience with Brodie Retallick and Sam Whitelock. So a very, very well-balanced team for the All Blacks going into this fixture. Moving on to the away team, a team that wants redemption. And I know they got smashed, and I already said it, but I mean, I just feel that the Wallabies deserved so much more out of the game last week. I really don't think they were that bad. I think there was a lot of things to learn. I think there was a lot of standout performances. A lot more questions answered than questions provided during the game. Let me know what you think about that. But I mean, moving into the forwards of the Wallabies, you got Angus Bell, who I think had a very, very decent game, to be honest. I don't think he got scrummed with his neck into his arsehole. Dave Mareki once again, and then we got is he a debutant? Well, we got a start for Puni Famusili. Don't know anything about him. You could hear with the pronunciation, but I think Angus Bell was a standout player last weekend. I think he did a brilliant job. And then James Slipper, of course, on the bench, who is actually who's usually the captain, but he's on the bench, which means Tate McDermott gets his first captain's role, which is very exciting. But I mean, Angus Bell, that's the one that I'm excited to see how he matches up with Nepululala. Moving into that 4 and 5 jersey, the locks. No Will Skelton this time. Going with Nick Frost and Richie Arnold. Now, Will Skelton, in my opinion, he was in my team of the championship. I'm surprised to see him not starting. I think his spot for the World Cup is solidified. I just think this is some more game time for Nick Frost and Richie Arnold. See how that combination works if something was to happen with Will Skelton. Tom Hooper retains his jersey. Fraser McWright and Rob Valentini. No real issues. I think Rob Valentini had a brilliant game last weekend. He scored a try as well. I think he just ran into the All Blacks guys. He's a fierce competitor. Very, very strong guy. Tom Hooper, I'm yet to see really what the guy's made of, to be honest. I think he's played 2 games now, and I think both games he's been pretty quiet. unless his work just went under the radar for me and you maybe saw a bit more. Moving on to the back line, once again the excitement comes in for the Wallabies in that back line. Tate McDermott, I'm glad he's still alive. He might have been dead after that tackle, but he's gotten up and he's captain for this weekend. I think he had, except for that tackle, he had a pretty decent game, to be fair. Carter Gordon in that number 10 jersey, I think he had a decent game. Certain parts I didn't really like about him. Other parts I thought this guy could be the future in that number 10 jersey. Just with some experience, he could become a much better player. But I like the combination of Tate McDermott, Carter Gordon, very exciting players. And then you got Samu Kurevi and Jordan Pataya as your centers. No issues there. It's the exact same as last weekend. I would have gone for that as well. It's actually the complete same back line, I just realized, as they had last weekend. You got Monica Korabeti on the wing, and then Navakanti Vase. I've actually practiced to pronounce his name decently, so I got that decently. I think both of them very good players, probably the wings for the World Cup. I just think this whole back line just needs some time to focus, time to build their chemistry. Because they didn't perform badly against the All Blacks, this backline. And then, of course, Andrew Kellaway, who I also thought had a pretty decent game last weekend, slots in at 15 jersey. Moving on to the reserves, you got Jordan Ulysses, James Slipper, Zane Nongo, Will Skelton, Rob Leota, Nick White, Quade Cooper, and Isaiah Perese. I think it's the exact same reserves. I just think Will Skelton switched with, is it Nick Frost? Or Richie Arnold, one of those. I think they just switched that. So I think with the inexperienced team of the All Blacks, even though there's a lot of experienced competitors, I think the Wallabies don't have a bad team. I do not believe they're going to win the game, obviously. But I think they can be proud of their performance last week and hopefully build on that for this weekend. I don't see this being another blowout victory, to be honest. I think there's a lot of guys that wants to prove a point in the All Blacks jersey, but there's a lot of guys that have never played with each other. Yeah, they've been in the training groups, but not necessarily at game time together, learn how to run off each other to actually get the tries that you want. So that's just my outside perspective. You can let me know what you think about it. Moving into the final phase, and we have got the betting odds. And yesterday when I made the video about the betting odds and my quick and early predictions for this weekend's games, Australia had the odds all in their favour if you wanted to bet on them. Like 11 times your money back. That's what you had. It's gone down a bit now, so it's gone to 9.4 times your money back, which is absolutely still a decent bet if you think about an upset victory. I do not believe it's going to come, so I would straight up go to the handicaps. You can even throw in over-unders if you wish to. Over 48.5, over 50 points. Decent money back on that. But I'd just go straight in. Australia plus 24.5. I don't think it's going to be another blowout victory. I could see the game easily going, let's say, 30-18 for New Zealand, which gets you this bet back. And it's 1.7 odds for that one. If you put it in Australia plus 24.5, I mean, sounds good to me. Let me know what you think about it. Sorry, I rambled extremely in the beginning, fell over my words. It was absolutely a shit show. But yeah, see you next time.